Oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jamsys, and today we are continuing the downward spiral that is the RTA season. How fun is that? I'm currently not like too in love with what's going on in RTA right now, but that's because here, I'll include this nice handy dandy graph that I made in Paint. I'm really good with Paint if you can't tell. But anyway, yes, basically every single time I try to hit Emperor in FX7, there's roller coasters of emotions of oh, I'm gonna make it, and then oh, I can't make it, I'm gonna flop. And we're currently in the flop era of this climb, and I'm sure there'll be more highs and more flops, but to be determined. It's just something that I talked about before, especially with the big mental aspect of RTA, and it's just a part of that, and I have to write it out. Anyway, my opponent rudely pre-bans my Conquer Lillias here, so I actually pick Lidica. So from the last video, I decided that I didn't really love Lidica as much as Conquer Lillias, because the thing is, Lidica's better for aggressive play for sure, but she's kind of worse into standard, and she's a lot worse into tank down, DJB SCRL comp. So that was something I was trying to avoid, so I just gave my best gear back to Conquer Lillias, and I put my junky speed gear that I had on Pera on Lidica instead, because it's just as good. Anyway, my opponent is drafting kind of boring, nothing too special. I don't think Lidica's a target for designer a little bit unless you have openers that contest her, so that's something that I think that's an opponent mistake in my opponent's draft. They pick Sage Ugly, and I don't want to deal with Sage Ugly, so just ban Sage Ugly out. And this draft is honestly looking quite good, because either way, I S2 and BBK pushes up with their S1 and Ida does a bunch of damage, or my opponent looks like he's not really concerned about my Roy, and Roy just deletes his team, and I'm okay with that too. So let's get the first match off the road. The way that my DPS stats are tuned, Roy is actually the one with the highest attack, so it's always going to be him pushing up no matter what DPS I pick. So that's a cool, neat fact about that. And I S2 on FCC here, just so designer a little bit doesn't get any debuffs to push up or get defense buff eventually, because again, this team is one of those teams that abuse book and soul burn 50 times in a row, so there's that. But this match looks pretty much over. I think my opponent didn't respect Lidica's ability to set up for the team, even though I guess it was kind of inevitable, because Lidica pushes up and Lidica pushes up. And since my BBK is actually on immunity and Stenny can't strip, it's kind of done for my opponent. And I feel kind of dirty, but we need some of these pick-me-up W's to feel good about ourselves in RTA. You know what I mean? Anyway, we're just gonna move on from this match. But yeah, I'm thinking about testing out Lua too, because I only have one really good set of speed gear, and on the last day, if people start pre-banning Conquer Lillias less, I don't mind picking Lua, because Lua does the same thing as Conquer Lillias, where it's just they strip and cripple the enemy team to set up for the rest of your team, which is something I like. In the second match, wow, they pick Conquer Lillias, and I find that incredibly annoying, so I have to pick Lidica here, because I have to contest my opponent's speed somehow, unless I want to get cleaved. And my opponent picks Rimuru, which is one of the things too about Lidica, is that with Lidica, you actually see a lot of unconventional picks that you don't see too often. You see a lot of these pincer combos of designer a little bit and degen Politis, or designer a little bit degen Rimuru, or Celine even. There are some tanky Celines built just for Lidica cleaves that have 16 or 17k HP. It's kind of wild. Anyway, my opponent picks LR Crow here, which I found was like a very interesting pick. Also one I haven't seen in a while. But you know, we respect it. Then they pick ADS and we do not respect that, so but I think this match overall should be fine because I'm thinking of banning this Conquer Lillias though, because my Leica, sorry to disappoint everyone, is no longer blazingly fast to the point where I think she can contest every speed contester in the world ever. But she's at like a middling speed, like she's like 295, 296, so she's just at the area of like, it's decent but like it's not good, you know what I mean? For my last pick here, I think I need a bridge unit, so I pick Ida. I think this threatens the ban onto Rimuru, so I'm thinking that my opponent will ban Ida in response, and that's exactly what happens. So I'm glad I banned the way I did, because what this allows me to do is that I should be able to S3 or just S2 depending on what I feel like, and then Rimuru is forced to go into Aiden no matter what, because Stenny is the highest attack unit on my team right now, so my Rimuru will not target her with the counter. So I go for the more aggressive play because everything has immunity, so I thought there wasn't like too much point in pressing my buttons. Rimuru can try to go onto Aiden, but I don't think my opponent's gonna go for that. Yeah, they're going on like this is the struggles of a plus 18 guiding light, but what can you do? I'm just gonna hope that I strip the barrier off Archie and Mercedes, and we do, just for another one to get put up by LRK, and I forgot about that, so kill me. But hopefully we reset this Braceria and then we should be fine, as long as we are able to kill Archie and Mercedes in the next 3 attacks. It should be good. My Stenny has attack buff, she has pen set, and I'm guessing this LRK has like adamant or whatever, but there's a lot of penetrating damage, so I'm hoping that it's good. And my Aiden similarly is on pen set, but she's on like Shepherd, I guess, so it's not the most damage, but luckily we do kill Archdemon, so I think we're pretty safe here. Even if my Aiden does die, oh, it doesn't look like this Braceria is actually super high damage. This is going to hurt a lot. Well, it's gonna hurt my Aiden a lot, but it'll also let her counter, so I'm not too upset about it either. And although it does give them another barrier, I think that with this team there should be enough offensive power once I kill Rimuru, because LRK can't solo Stenny and Lidica because he needs his S3 to do like substantial damage. So we're like looking good and sitting pretty. I think I should have soul burned Aiden's S1 there just to get the unbuffable on, but you know, hindsight 2020, MLDB mischance procs, so we're like doing really good now. LRK does hit, so that's kind of unlucky, but now that it's LRK left by himself, I don't think my opponent can win anymore. Yeah, and yeah, understandably, my opponent does decide to tap out there. So this set of matches is actually not going too bad, but you know, you never know with RTA. One of the complaints I have about, well, not I, but like a lot of people have about this season is that it's a lot more aggro oriented, and the best answer to aggro is like, other than outspeeding, like outspeeding is always the best, but other than that, it's like you pick a bunch of these like degen casino units like ER, kayrons, and BBKs on like Shepherd, like Armin. It's like that kind of unit, and nobody likes those metas, so I don't understand why Smilegate did this to us. And I guess I would feel less strongly about it if I had like a unit like Astromancer Elena, but unluckily I am, how do you say, Baroque and cannot afford those type of units. So unluckily for me, I am stuck trying my best and trying not to die with RNG. So that is one of the new techs that I am running. I'm running a very interesting W.Silk build, I'll just say, where I slowed her down a lot, but I gave her like a 200+ effectiveness just so she can nail most ER, kayrons, and BBKs especially if you are able to hit them a bunch before W.Silk goes, because she is like not as fast, you know? So that's something new I'm trying out. And since W.Silk is actually like not too bad in standard, like she has a 2-turn silence, she can proc a dual attack, so she's not the worst. Like she's actually like decent into things like Hand Guy or like Spirit Eye Celine, I guess, with a 2-turn whatever. And my opponent does go for some degen stuff, but in case my opponent bans my Conquer Lillias, I'm kind of forced to ban their Lidica, and they obviously ban Bryce Area because it counters their 2 degen units. But I'm hoping that between Wind Rider on Cidd, the attack down and vigor from Conquer Lillias, and W.Silk's general annoyingness, I should be able to win. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. Because Conquer Lillias is tanky, and since she does have a fair bit of effectiveness, I should be able to land attack down and redirected provoke on Kayron. So I just need to survive 1 turn from him and not get countered to Oblivion, but you will see how that ends up. Oh, foreshadowing, just like one of my recent videos where a casino team got RNG down by a casino Kayron, which is like, okay, I guess. Anyway, I get to work dismantling my opponent's team. I'm not too sure if I should have, I think I should have just pushed back Cidd so we have someone to hit, even if it's like 1 or 2 times. But then it would mean I have to kill this RB, which I'm not like thrilled about. RB actually did a lot of damage too, even through Vigor, but you know, I have Champion's Trophy, so I could RNG stun. We luckily don't get countered once. We go for the S3 with W.Silk, but I think we miss. But we don't get countered, so it's fine. We also don't get another counter here, so it's fine. We just have to continue not getting countered, but this dual attack from Conquer Lillias gets me a counter attack, which I'm not too thrilled about, but we just need to not get countered 1 more time. But we get counterattacked because of the follow-up attack, and we just survive this attack, but it was a little bit too much. I think I could have lived it maybe if I put my Conquer Lillias on her self HP imprint, but it's like hindsight is 2020, you know. If you play aggressively, your Conquer Lillias kind of sits on her attack imprint most of the time. But I think that was kind of a mistake here, but you know, I will now know for better for next time that if I'm up against a degen unit like Kayron, I'll just go for the HP imprint because the damage really isn't important, because like Cowrick's paper, Cidd's paper, excuse me, RB at that speed is paper, so what can you do? Anyway, on to the next match. These are like pretty annoying pre-bans.
Oh lord.
Lidica and Conquer Lillias are pre-bans, so you already know that they are some type of speed contester because they banned out a lot of the popular speed contesting units. So I just go and start imprinting up because this is probably going to be some sort of speed race. And my opponent picks like a pretty unique speed imprint like Shuri, which is not something you see too often. So I kind of have to pick more imprints to match my opponent. I actually also picked BBK here because my opponent does not have any strips. So that kind of disincentivizes my opponent from actually, you know, like he can't continue to pick speed imprints because none of the speed imprints strip aside from W.Silk. And my opponent picks Lidica here, which I'm kind of feeling not too great about. I kind of wish I grabbed Lidica in the last slot instead of Cidd, but I think I should be fine. But you'll see when we get into this match that my opponent is actually running a Guiding Light Flan. Like, what is this? So that's one of the weird things about this season, is that there's a lot of weird techs people are running around with, and it's like, I don't fault them because, you know, like, everyone wants to win, but it's just like, it doesn't feel good when you lose to them, which is kind of ironic because like nobody likes to lose to Cleave either. But I'm kind of hoping that maybe I'll survive this S3 from Shuri. It does push up a lot, so that's not good, but it kind of like just deletes my Cidd and S10A. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's not too good. It's kind of my fault for not having a real Cidd. If I had a real Cidd that was like 300 speed, that would have been better here. But my A Cidd is barely 300 speed, and he gets like a 60% crit rate for free. So that was just a little too much of a tall order for me, you know? So we just take that L and move on, as sad as that is. And hopefully we can get some dubs. But that's like, there was a few of these techs, like, I've seen like guiding light pauls this season too, and that's like one of the things that I like don't love too much about the season. Like there's too much like RNG casino, and people are running a lot of these like weird techs to deal with cleave, and that's like not really fun to run into either, because it feels like you get cheese though. Like again, cleave is kind of like a cheese with like speed, so like I can't even get too mad. But yeah, what can you do? What can you do? My opponent here continues to play really standard, so I'm feeling pretty confident. Like Steny is good into these standard comps. Lidica is just really good into most standard comps in general. So I think that I'm pretty confident I can win this. C Armin is not a type of unit you see too often, but I'm not too afraid. I'm thinking of picking Savior Aiden here because Savior Aiden actually matches really well into Sage Ball and Sylvan Sage Rivian. Like Sylvan Sage Rivian can actually lose the 1v1 against Aiden because her S2 proc eats Insight and her S1 gives Unbuffable, and that really hurts her. And she also has Sustain of herself. But I kind of changed my mind last minute and decided to pick Bryceria and Ida. I think I picked Bryceria just because I could strip ML Cowrick's buffs off, but I think that was a mistake because I have a lot of ways to control Hand Guy. Like I have Conquer Lillias and I can soul burn her, or I can reset him with Faithless Lidica. But this leaves the draft open to my opponent's Savior Aiden, and I think I make my second mistake here. I get afraid that he's going to ban my Bryceria, which he's obviously going to do to protect his Aiden. But what I should have done is I should have banned this Sage Ball, because my once Sage Ball is banned, I can control Aiden with Conquer Lillias, and then I can reset Hand Guy with my Lidica. And then I would have my Ida and Steny to just wail into the Sylvan Sage Rivian. And then once Sylvan Sage Rivian is dead and Hand Guy's cooldowns are up, I can easily just like keep running into Aiden until Aiden dies. But that's kind of a mistake. But you live and you learn. I kind of try to debuff Sage Ball here, but you know, most Sage Balls are run at like 240 effectiveness at least. And that is outside the range of my Conquer Lillias being able to debuff them. I go with S2, S3, and since I didn't push back Hand Guy with this, none of my units actually cut the Hand Guy. Not that it would have mattered too much because Hand Guy would have been controlled, is uncontrollable anyway, and my team was asleep, so that was kind of a mistake. But I think I was coping a lot. I was just like, maybe this is one of those rare low resist Sage Balls, but unfortunately for me, it does not turn out to be that way. And now that my opponent is actually able to go with his Sylvan Sage Rivian, and his Sylvan Sage Rivian actually does have attack buff, I'm like pretty sure my team's about to get deleted here. But you know, as I said, like I had my fun, so I have to have my opponent have their fun too, you know? Like I complain when cleavers tap out after they lose, but now that my opponent had the satisfaction of wiping out my team, now I'm like, oop, we gotta go. That was embarrassing. But yeah, I think that's just like brain, like it's just like your brain on cleave. Like I made a lot of mistakes during the drafting phase, like, but it happens. Like, what can you do? I just think I was too tilted to actually like make proper decisions. So I would really advocate that if you enjoy winning and you enjoy like climbing, if you have a few losses in a row and you feel it getting to you, don't go into that mentality of I'll win it all back. You'll probably tilt more and lose. So I just recommend that you stop. Like, I honestly should have stopped at the last game, but you know, I'm a content creator, so I had to continue making my content. And yeah, we're going back to a throwback draft of Conquer Lillias and Sylvan Sage Vivian. No, not Conquer Lillias and Sylvan Sage Vivian. Conquer Lillias and DJB, because it's like really good into SC ROL. My opponent picks like two interesting counters. Like, I'm assuming this is a Degen Poultice and a Winter. It's like, you know, like the 270 speed, 200 effectiveness Winters that are good against DJB. So I respond to him by picking a bunch of Immortality units and one unit that is not a bunch of Immortality units. I pick an Immortality unit and I pick Rylet because Rylet provides an aspect of RNG, because Winter is actually reliant on hitting units to get the fixed damage. And so that's not too bad. And Rylet can technically avoid all the debuffs just by like not getting hit 5 head. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. I go for the BBK pick just because she's also on immunity. And I actually ban out the Poultice here just in case the Poultice is able to strip out my buffs, because my thought process is I'm either able to control this AOL with Conquer Lillias, or I outspeed with DJB and I push my DPS units above this AOL. So what ends up happening is that Conquer Lillias gets through. So I'm going with plan A, where I just try to control this AOL, because honestly none of my DPS units technically care about Celine's S2, and none of them particularly care about Winter's S3 either. Yeah, Celine goes for the S2, and I think this is a random stealth EE because my Rylet's actually the lowest attack out of my 3 DPS units here. Fun fact. I switched up his build because I kept drafting him as an anchor in these like stealth comps, so I needed him to be able to solo like that. So he's actually on Decrescent now with a little bit higher damage. But as always, you know, Rylet is not named Toilet for no reason. He actually dies to Celine because he doesn't dodge. Like, great job, Rylet. I expected nothing more from you. Honestly, you fucking flop. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm not too mad. Okay, I'm a little bit mad, but anyway. So we go and slam the Bryce Area S3 here, and there's a reason for this. So AOL only cleanses 1 buff on our S3, and since she also already has the attack down, I'm thinking that she'll only cleanse the attack down and she'll still be provoked. And that's exactly what ends up happening. My opponent's SCROL is able to go, and I was kind of worried that they would actually try to stun my BBK, but I think they were afraid that my BBK was actually ER, so they don't go for her. So I'm like, okay, bet. And you know, I was there slamming BBK's S3 button with swiftness. And I actually don't kill anybody because Escort is a good buff. But I think it should be fine.
Don't ever forget.
Once I kill this Winter and Celine, his team doesn't really have damage. Like, AOL rips her S3 here, and everything gets stripped and everyone's silenced, but I don't really think it matters too much, because this Celine should not be able to kill my BBK just because, you know, it is 12k HP and it does have Vigor buff. And what do you know? We are able to tank it, and now that my opponent only has 2 non-DPS units left, honestly, like, BBK could solo at this point. But my opponent, I guess, is trying to stay in the game for a little bit to see if they can, like, CC down my BBK with Arrowell and AOL, but I think that's a little bit ambitious. And I think my opponent does realize that, and they do decide to tap out here, which is kind of like respectable. Like, GG, my guy. And yeah, we just go into the next match. It's just like, what can you do? I'm already reaching the point where I'm outplaying where I was last season. But I guess I do have an excuse this time around because I do film a lot of videos for content, because you can actually get away with playing a lot less games if you just climb in like the last month. So that's what I did the past 2 seasons, and I honestly only played like 600-ish games or something. But I again would not recommend it. It's very, very stressful and it feels bad. So would not recommend. My opponent surprisingly goes for the DJB first pick, which I was not expecting because DJB honestly isn't that popular the first pick because he is cleavable still. He's not as cleavable depending on the build he's on. Like if he's on Water Origin and Eternatus, a lot of the popular openers do depend on outspeeding. So like some sort of debuff, like Lidica gives target even. Conquer Lillias has a billion, Payra, Ran, all debuff. The only debuffers that, the only openers that don't, I guess, are like Flan if you just S2 and Pavel, but who picks units like that, you know? My opponent picks like your very typical anti-cleave stuff with Stage Ball. The Lionheart pick was kind of surprising, but I guess they were just threatening the standard pivot if I ever decided to do so. But again, I just go for the Ida here because his team honestly looks very eatable. I ban Sage Ball because Sage Ball is the king of anti-cleave currently. Like I guess, yeah, no, I was gonna say Zeo, but I think Sage Ball is the more reliable one because he sleeps, he hits through Guiding Light, he strips, he does like everything a cleaver would like. So we're going to have to see how this match plays out. My opponent bans Conquer Lillias here, which I was kind of surprised by. I'm not too sure why, because the way they picked Ran implied that they were very confident in their Ran speed. And I'm confident that my Acid outspeeds this Ran, even like after an imprint now. But it should be good. I'm already accepting that Ida's gonna die here, because, you know, she is. Karina's gonna push up after I kill this Ran. And Karina, I don't think is going to bother trying to go for this W.Silk, so she's just going to punch this Ida to mitigate as much damage as possible. And that's exactly what happens. So that's kind of like oof, but you know, Ida did her job. She showed up and she provided book, so she's already more useful than like 90% of the units in Epic 7. I mean, I wish I was like capping, but like, where's the lie? Surprisingly, my opponent does not go for the S2 here to deny me my... Oh, no, he couldn't go for the S2 because Karina splash damage. So I go for the S3 here onto Lionheart Thermia just to strip off the barrier. Like, I knew I wasn't taking anything off, but I just needed the barrier to get off. So I have a better chance of killing with S10. So that's what I start doing here. I start going to work on Lionheart Thermia, and judging by that damage, Lionheart Thermia should die to 2 S1s. We get the RNG win S1 proc from Cidd, give ourselves Wind Rider, even though we had Wind Rider before. We go for the S3 onto DJB, and we kill because he doesn't have the proof barrier reduction, the damage reduction anymore. And 2 units were dead at that, 3 units were dead at that point, so my Steny was very high damage. My opponent goes for the kill onto Cidd, which is understandable because Cidd laps too much and does too much damage. And the win actually banks on whether my W.Silk survives this next S1 or not. And I'm hoping she does. There's no defense buff. And yeah, defense scaling units don't do enough damage without defense buff. And my opponent actually does decide to forfeit here. And that's where I'm gonna cut it off for today. I think I was just really tilted after a few of those games. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time. And I thank everyone for watching to this point. If you have, you're goated, or like based, as the kids would say. I'll see you later.